You are tuned in to Run It Back Radio. My name is Deontay on Twitter at I Got Away with Words. That's at IGOTAWYWITWORDS. Seated across from me, of course, is
Run It Back Nation. This is Ant. What's happening? I can be found on both Twitter and Instagram at Ant the Liberated. That it's ANTTHELIBERERATED. And the show as a whole can be found on both Twitter and Instagram at Run It Back Radio.
All right, and don't forget to go to GoFundMe.com, search Run It Back Radio Podcast, and contribute to the Run It Back Radio movement that is growing. We certainly need your help, so please don't be afraid to kick in and give us that help. So on today's show, we're going to be talking to two very focused black female entrepreneurs, Tasha Johnson and Shalinda. We're going to go to Ohio to talk with Dr. Trevin D. Logan about NCAA and major Division I conferences potentially paying athletes. And we're also going to break down the Earl Spence Jr. Kell Brook fight with Kevin Watkins, a friend of the show. You're listening to Run It Back Radio. When we come back, Dr. Trevin D. Logan. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Run It Back Radio. This is Deontay. Seated across from me is...
It's Ant.
All right, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Run It Back Radio. So we have a very special treat for you guys this evening. Our first segment is with Dr. Trevin D. Logan. He is the Hazel C. Youngberg Trustees Distinguished Professor in the Department of Economics at the Ohio State University. I want to make sure I say that right. And is a research associate at the National Bureau of Economic Research and is the youngest president in the history of the National Economics Association. Dr. Logan's research specializes in economic history, economic demography, and applied microeconomics. Dr. Logan is also a published author. He has a book called Economics, Sexuality, and Male Sex Work, which was published in January of 2017 and is available at cambridge.org. So, Dr. Logan, we want to thank you for joining Run It Back Radio tonight, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I can't complain, Dr. Logan. Please say hello to my co-host, Ant, seated across from me.
Hi, Ant. How are you?
Doing well, Dr. Logan. We definitely appreciate you joining us on this evening.
So Dr. Logan is pretty much the smartest person in whatever room he finds himself in. He certainly understands and knows numbers more than I do. I was a career D student in math, meaning I've never earned anything higher than a D in math. That includes kindergarten. And before we go to Dr. Logan, Run It Back Radio Nation, as you know, we do information and we do barbershop dialogue here on our show. So I want to give you some facts and figures for you good folks. So according to ESPN, the SEC, Southeastern Conference, which has members include Auburn, University of Alabama, on and on and on, reported $584.2 million in revenue for the 2015-2016 year. The ACC, which includes the University of North Carolina, who won the NCAA tournament this year, reported $373 million in revenue for 2015-2016. The NCAA in 2016 extended their deal with CBS and Turner Broadcasting through 2032, which pays the NCAA $1.1 billion per season for the television rights for the NCAA tournament. And this past March, the betting projections for the NCAA tournament were at $10.4 billion. Now, all of those facts and figures are courtesy of ESPN. And first question I have for you, Dr. Logan, why the hell aren't major Division I athletes who generate this kind of revenue not being paid?
I think that's a great question, and to give some background in terms of your to answer that, let me back down, and the numbers that you gave I think are really good when you think about revenue for these conferences. But let me break that down a little bit. We talk about these numbers and just talk about the revenue that each school in those conferences receives in just football revenue in and of itself.
Okay.
And if you're looking at the schools overall, the average revenue for a school, any school in the Bowl Championship Series is making $20 million a year in revenue, football revenue. That's just football revenue. Now, there's variation in that. If you're in the Big Ten, the average revenue, total revenue, is $36.9 million. So that's each school in the Big Ten getting about $37 million a year. In the SEC, it's $38.4 million. But if you go down to, say, the schools that are not in the bowl, the automatic sort of bids that were in the BCS system, they're only generating $7.7 million in revenue. So when we think about paying athletes, one of the things that we first have to sort of, the black box we have to get into is the fact that not everybody is making the same amount of money. When you think about this in professional leagues, you're talking about a league, say the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, Major League Baseball, that generates revenue as a league and that has a redistribution policy governed by the way that the league is structured and by their collective bargaining agreements that redistributes all of that revenue to the teams. That doesn't exist in the NCAA as a whole. So the best that we can start thinking about this when we break down why these athletes aren't being paid, there isn't a similar institutional structure in college athletics as there is in, say, professional sports. So if we want to start paying student athletes, the first big question that we're going to have to tackle is, how do we structure college athletics that would allow us to pay student athletes? And that would really require a different way of renegotiating between the schools in the NCAA.
And I know that's a huge challenge because you have so many schools, so many athletes, so many different sports. But is it fair to say that the football and basketball teams on major Division I colleges single-handedly bring in more revenue than any other department or any other function or any other activity at a successful university in a major conference or even in a mid-major conference? I believe that's a fair statement. Would you agree?
I would have to disagree with that.
Okay.
Part of it is you're overlooking the revenue that comes in from, say, research in terms of external grants.
Okay.
NIH, the National Science Foundation, generates for any university literally orders of magnitude more than the revenue I was just speaking about in terms of sports. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we have to really start thinking about when we really get to what the purpose of these universities is. That should be the case, right? If these are educational institutions and all of their money is being generated from something that is extracurricular or outside of research, we would really have a problem. But certainly in terms of the things that are extracurricular, this is at the top. Athletics is certainly right at the top. But when we think about these major universities, and we're talking once again about these big players, the Big Ten, the SEC, they're bringing in several hundreds of millions of dollars a year in external funding that is oriented to research.
And I think the point you just made raises an even larger question. Should we even think of these players who go on, which are very few and far in between, but these players at major universities who go on to have these illustrious careers, make millions of dollars, and even those who don't go on to have such an illustrious career, but just the fact that when they're at these universities, they're generating the type of revenue that they're generating based on the success that the team has or the teams may have. Should we even be looking at them as student athletes? Is the student moniker, is it not meaningless, but is it even fair to consider them student athletes?
Well, yes, and the reason is they're all students. They're registered. They're taking classes. Mm-hmm. And when we start thinking, I think the question that you asked was predicated on football and basketball.
Right.
If you think about those as a fraction of the student athlete population, they're relatively small. And so I think the biggest issue, and sort of the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, is you're basically talking about 2 to maybe at the most 4 sports that are generating the majority of this revenue.
And that's where I was going to go next with my next question, because I'm glad you brought that up. So the other side of the argument for those who feel like collegiate athletes should not be paid is, the argument that if you pay some, you must pay all. And they also bring up the challenges to paying athletes that will inevitably come from Title IX laws. Those challenges seem fair and seem valid. How would you respond to those challenges?
I think those challenges are real. When you think about what an athletic department does, and I want to turn this around because I want to think about what a university does. A university brings in a lot of students, right? And the students major in a lot of different fields, and that distribution is not equal, right? So you might have a university, for example, that turns out many more, say, business majors or economics majors or math majors than it turns out philosophy majors or Spanish majors. And one of the things that the university has to think about, just the way that you have to think about the athletic department, is every student's paying tuition, irrespective of their major. And there are tons of departments at a university, several departments, hundreds of departments at universities, large universities. And these faculty are compensated in the universities as a staff that works with the students, for example. You're not just going to pay for the students as a portion of their majoring and where they're actually majoring, or whether or not, for example, those majors are more lucrative than others. So universities fundamentally are always redistributing resources from one pot to another. And we do the same thing in athletics, and it just receives a lot more attention, but we're doing that at universities overall.
And I dove into your research here from the paper that you published in June of 2014 called The Effect of Recruit Quality on College Football Team Performance, published in the Journal of Sports Economics in June 2004. You published that with a colleague, of course. And in that paper, you deal with the dollar amounts of the value of, say, a 5-star recruit, a 4-star recruit, a 3-star recruit, on and on and on. Can you get into that a little bit and kind of get into the methodology and how you arrived at those value amounts?
Yes, let me talk a little bit about that paper, which is a building block when we talk about the value. So the first paper, the paper that you mentioned with Stephen, looks at a very basic question, which is, we pay a lot of attention in athletics. I think one of the great things for a university, and I think overall, is athletics is really one of the things that ties you to a college or university long after you're done on campus. And I travel extensively as a researcher and speaking. Can't go to a single airport in this nation, and I've been to probably almost all of them at this point. And somebody will have an Ohio State T-shirt on, and it's really shocking to me. Now, I was a student at the University of Wisconsin, and I have to admit that I can go to airports and not see someone with a Wisconsin shirt on, but I cannot go to an airport without somebody with an Ohio State T-shirt on. And so one of the things that athletics does for universities is it raises the profile of a university. And so that really is something, it's a wonderful positive externality.
Well, I tell you what, Doctor, you will not go to an airport and not see somebody with a Delaware State University. I'm just kidding, man. That's where Ann and I were raised, so to speak, collegially. But go ahead, you were finishing your point, Doctor. I'm sorry.
Yes. So I think one of the things that we, when we first talk about this, is athletics is a way that ties people to universities who, number one, are not students, but then even for people who are alums and alumni, they are tied to universities as well via athletics. And that's a really important thing to think about. It generates a lot of goodwill for universities. And so I think it's very important to understand that that is something that perhaps cannot be quantified. And it's very, very important. But when we think about sort of the methodology to go back to, should we pay these students? There's a first question that we have to ask, which is, number one, are the students and student athletes actually important in the production of wins? And what I mean by that, when we think, that seems like a question that we shouldn't even ask. It sort of has an obvious answer. But it actually is a little bit more sophisticated than that, because sometimes when you think about sort of, do the players really matter, you really have to think about, are these sort of interchangeable parts, right? So for a university like Ohio State, there's such a big brand, particularly in college football, that it might not matter if, for example, universities spend millions of dollars, for example, on recruiting. And one of the first questions we want to ask is, do we really have to spend that kind of money? Won't the students just show up, and anybody who is really good wants to play at Ohio State? So maybe we don't need to devote a lot of resources to recruiting all of this talent. And so the first question that Stephen Bergman and I wanted to answer was, is there a relationship between what we call ex-ante ratings of athletic quality for college football players, which means, when they're in high school, we make a sort of bet or prediction about how good they are. And is that actually related to the performance of the teams that they eventually go and play for at the college level? And so we took the information from the Rivals and Scouts recruiting services for several years, from 2002 to 2012, and we wanted to see if the teams that recruited better players actually were related to the performance of those teams. And we found that actually is the case. So if you recruit that five-star player, and remember, in a year, there are only about a handful of five-star players, in the nation. If you're lucky enough to grab one of those, it's going to increase the number of wins that you have that year. One five-star player literally gets you a half a win a year. And when you think about the value of that, well, maybe that's a lot, maybe that's a little bit, but the distribution of those five-star players is very skewed. In the last several years, Alabama has had literally, they have out-recruited every other team. There have been some years in which half of the five-star recruits have been playing for Alabama and are recruited by Alabama. So they're really getting an outsized distribution of talent. But now this goes back to the first question that I asked about the institution of college athletics. That's not going to happen in the NBA or in the NFL, not in any one year, right? So when we say about the NBA, I know we want to talk about basketball because I just watched the Cavaliers get us to the final that we've all been waiting for in the NBA.
There it goes. There it is.
But think about what happened in the offseason last year, right? Kevin Durant leaves Oklahoma City and goes out to Golden State and creates what people think about as a super team, right? Or a team that is destined to get to the finals, right? And a lot of people really grouse about that because they think that it leads to a lack of competitive balance in the NBA, right? You've got Golden State in the West, and you've got the Cavaliers in the East, and that's the only thing that everybody's been talking about all season, right? And so people would say it's a very boring basketball season because of this lack of competitive balance.
Right.
That is an issue for the NBA as a league because institutionally, if people stop tuning in to anything but the finals, that's going to be a loss of revenue for these teams.
Right.
And there are ways that the NBA, and the NFL, and Major League Baseball structure themselves to try to keep competitive balance in their sports. And that's, we just experienced that with the NFL draft. Well, who drafts first? It's the team that had the worst record the previous season, right? In football. There's no guarantee like that in college athletics, right? It's open season every year, right? The best team last year, the team that won the national championship, Clemson, does not get or is not punished in recruiting for being successful. Right? And we do literally the opposite of that in professional sports.
Absolutely. That's a great point that you just made. I had never thought of it that way. That is actually a great point. Now, Dr. Logan, as we get ready to wrap up this segment, I'm going to ask you to answer two questions back to back, okay? Question number one, do you foresee in the near future the NCAA or major Division I conferences actually constructing a model or methodology of paying the athletes?
Yes and no. I do think they're going to come up with a scheme to compensate athletes, but fundamentally, if you pay the athletes what they're worth, you're only going to have football and basketball at a couple of schools.
And my second question for you, and we're going to get out of this, we're going to get out of here on this particular question. I feel like I already know the answer, being as though you are where you are. Give us your prediction for the NBA Finals, sir. Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors.
It's probably going to be Golden State in 6.
Oh, surprise me.
Yeah, look, I have to be honest. I can be a Cavalier fan.
Are you gonna be safe getting off campus today? Are you gonna be okay?
I'll be all right. I mean, look, if Cleveland wins, that would be a true shocker, and it really would elevate LeBron above anything else. I mean, he did it last season, but look, Kevin Durant going out to Golden State created a super team that is destined. If they were destined last year, they literally have their name etched in it this year. So I think Golden State in 6.
One more quick question. My co-host Ann has one more quick question, really quick. Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, my question for you is in reference to players themselves. I think about, former college athletes such as your Maurice Claretts, your Ed O'Bannons, your Chris Webbers, who took, benefits from boosters. And so with, once upon a time, the media and the NCAA made that as, they painted a picture as if that was the most reprehensible act that any college athlete could participate in. But looking at how the students get no more than, say, a $500 stipend for winning on the road just to get something to eat while teams are on the road. I mean, can you really blame these students for seeking some sort of benefits elsewhere since they're not being properly compensated, given that their likeness is being used in video games and the selling of jerseys and things of that nature? And then the second part to that question is, can you really blame kids for jumping from college to the pros to get some sort of compensation for their blood, sweat, and tears that they put into the games that they play?
Let me answer your second question first.
Okay.
Given how much they'll be compensated as professional athletes, it would make no sense for them to remain in college.
None.
When the opportunity cost is that high, right? I mean, just, the straight economics, right? You literally are giving up 10, in some cases, 10, $20 million to remain in school another year. That makes no sense. They need to go and play professional sports. School, the institution will still be here, and their educational opportunity will always be here. But related to that, your first question, we had Maurice Claret on campus last spring talking about this issue of compensating student athletes. It surprised me so much that he was against paying student athletes. But what he wanted was for the universities to set a fund for the students, say $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, for them that would be money put away for them, that they could then, when they left the university, they could actually draw from. So he didn't want them to be directly compensated while in school. And I think that when we think about compensating student athletes, we can get very creative with this.
Absolutely.
And we can do things that I think we can really think outside the box. But I really do think that for some of these players, what's going to happen in the end is they're going to have some level of compensation. But it may be something like a bond that Maurice Claret was talking about.
Well, Dr. Logan, I want to thank you for joining us this evening on Run It Back Radio and giving us your insight on the larger question of should athletes in major Division I schools and the NCAA be paid. I want you to, before we get you out of here, I want you to please plug any projects that you have going on. Please tell the Run It Back Radio Nation where you can be reached, where they can find your research, where they can find your publications, etc.
You can always find me just doing a quick Google search of Trevon D. Logan. You can reach me on Twitter at Trevon D. Logan. And I'm also part of the Sports and Society Initiative at Ohio State University. And look us up at at Sports and Society and at Sports and Society on Twitter.
Well, thank you very much once again for joining us, Dr. Logan. We would love to have you back on to discuss any sports and economic issues, sir. Would that be okay with you?
Oh, yes, I'd be delighted to do so.
All right, sir. Will you enjoy your evening? Once again, Running Back Radio Nation, that was Dr. Trevon D. Logan. When we come back, we're going to get into the history of racism in Boston professional teams, from their teams and their fans. We're going to get into that in a little more in-depth. And we're also going to get into the history of racism in sports as a whole with renowned lecturer and historian Dr. Yahiru Williams. When we come back, y'all, Running Back Radio.
Hi, this is Renee from Robin and Renee Catering, and you're listening to Running Back Radio with Deontay and Ann.
Running Back Radio, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, on Twitter and Instagram at Running Back Radio. My name is Deontay, on Twitter at IGOTAWYWITWORDS. That's at I Got Away with Words. Seated across from me, of course.
Once again, it's Ant, and my Twitter and Instagram social media handles are at Ant the Liberated. ANTTHELIBERATED.
And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, GoFundMe.com. Search Running Back Radio Podcast. Contribute to the movement if you can. There is no amount too large or too small. On the line with us, on the Running Back Radio hotline with us, is a guest and friend to the show, a gentleman who was born in the same hospital as LeBron James. You know him very well, Mr. Kevin Watkins. Mr. Watkins, are you there?
I'm here, my brother, I'm here.
Akron, Ohio's finest, Kevin Watkins, joins us to break down the Earl Spence Jr. Kell Brook match that is coming on Showtime tomorrow night. This is a major fight for boxing fans. Tell us why, Kev.
It's going to be an amazing fight for a couple of reasons. You know, you got the budding superstar, rising superstar in Earl Spence Jr. You know, he's unproven. Certainly, he has a few notable names on his belt. In terms of his body of work, which is Chris Algieri. He's fought Butte. But on the flip side, it's you're still kind of facing the unknown. Whereas you got Kell Brook, who fought Sean Porter, and he took the belt from him. And it's kind of like you feel good about Kell Brook, though he had a good showing against Gennady Golovkin. He came up short, but you still have a lot of takeaways from that fight. So this fight is intriguing because it's kind of like you got a guy that you're kind of unsure about. You got a guy you feel like he's been there, but then you don't know he can really endure this new young bull that's coming at him. So it'll be an exciting fight.
Kell Brook has a very well-known fan in the boxing world. Tell us about who one of Earl Spence Jr. Tell us about who one of his biggest fans are within the boxing world, sir.
It's funny. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of his biggest fans, and I ask myself, is he truly being sincere when it comes to, Earl Spence? It's like, he was one of his former sparring partners, right? We come to find out that Earl was giving him real work in camp, and and the rumor is that when Floyd kicked him out of his camp, it's because Earl blacked his eye. Now, it's already documented and has been confirmed and validated that Earl Spence stopped Adrian Broner in sparring. So we know he's that beast. We know he knocked down Charles Hatley when they were sparring. We know he's a beast. We know he pushed Jermell Charlo to his brink. Though he didn't drop him, he pushed him. He pushed him to, who kind of knows, because he's 154 pounds in terms of Jermell Charlo. So I say all that to say, Floyd Mayweather, while he gives Earl Spence praise, is he giving him praise so that, we don't put too much time speaking on that whole sparring experience? I don't know. Do I feel like Floyd absolutely wished he was signed to TMT? He absolutely does, but he fell short with that. So while Floyd is his fan, one of his biggest fans, I still I got to question his intent.
So what I think I hear you saying in your analysis, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, is that Earl Spence Jr. is the young puppy that's hungry, and Kell Brook is the established fighter that has some major wins under his belts and some major bouts under his belts. And if this young puppy is to win this fight, what does he have to do?
You know, he really has to fight his type of fight. I think he's the decorated amateur. Like, you know, he fought the Olympics, though he didn't place. And it's so funny, we speak about that and we reference that, you know, he fought in the Olympics. That's cool, but he came home with no hardware. But that's a good experience because he has fought abroad. He's fought in Australia. He's fought in the UK. So I don't think the moment is too big for him. But styles make fights. You know, you can't really kind of bring a sparring partner in that's going to emulate everything Kell Brook does. Kell Brook has good hand speed. He has a good jab. He's a big welterweight in terms of just his size. Though he's only 5'8", he's still big in like girth and in width. So it's kind of like, you know, I feel like the keys to victory for Errol Spence is that he has to put up a good fight. He has to dictate the pace. He has to kind of expect the unknown. And we don't know when he faces this type of adversity how he'll respond. We just haven't seen it. Not saying that's not a part of his DNA. We just haven't seen it. And sometimes that's what it's about. Experience is the best teacher sometimes.
And what type of fight do you expect from Kell Brook?
Kell Brook, I think, you know, he has some advantages. I mean, he's fighting at home. You know, he's been in this moment before. He's shown me through two fights. You know, the Shawn Porter fight, think about it. Shawn Porter is a guy that brings constant pressure. You know, Errol Spence hasn't fought anyone to date that fights like Shawn Porter, you know, that gives you that much intensity. Shawn Porter bullied Paulie Malignaggi. Shawn Porter bullied Adrian Broner. Shawn Porter bullied Andre Berto. That style is kind of hard to emulate that. And for the fact that Kell Brook was able to manage that and win that belt on the road, coming to the U.S., that tells me he's a resilient fighter. He shows a lot of resolve. And then for the fact that he gets in the ring with Gennady Golovkin, you know, he's winning rounds. You know, we went up 2 weight classes to fight this man. You know, he normally fights at 47. So for you to go up to 60, 2 weight classes and compete, that's saying something. And that also tells me that though Errol Spence is a big puncher, you know, he's a big welterweight. If this guy is standing in front of Gennady Golovkin and never go down, and the fight only gets stopped because he had a cracked orbital bone, he can take a punch. So it's just so intriguing. But I'm being honest with you when I say the longer I'm waiting around, I'm feeling like Kell Brook may have a better showing than what I initially thought.
All right, as we wrap up this segment, sir, give us your prediction on the fight. How do you see it going? Is it going the distance? Is it going to be a knockout? What's going to happen?
It will not go the distance. I have Errol Spence winning in the 9th round. I feel like the pressure he'll put on Kell Brook, the angles he'll put on Kell Brook will be the difference maker. Errol Spence.
You got Errol Spence Jr. winning the fight. All right, so, of course, we have to get your prediction on the NBA Finals. You're from Akron, Ohio. As I said, you were born in the same hospital as LeBron James.
Could you say that again, host? Could you say that one more time, please?
Yeah, born in the same hospital as LeBron James. Y'all share the same hairline, too.
Oh, here we go.
This is true.
Here we go,
This is true. This is true.
Go on, give your prediction, man. NBA Finals, Warriors versus the Cavaliers. Give us your prediction, sir.
You know, on Instagram, on Twitter, the hashtag is Defend the Land. You know, it's all about the 3-3-0 and the 2-1-6. I feel like the Cavaliers, we definitely learned a lot from last year's matchup. There's so many different ways to look at it, but I feel like our roster at this point in time is complete. We got Darren Williams coming off one of his biggest games in the playoffs. We need that. But you heard it here first. The X factor will be Derek Williams. When we put in the lineup in which we'll feature Derek Williams and LeBron James, we're able to match Draymond Green's versatility by putting another 6'7" tweener on him. We know Kyrie has the mental edge over Seth Curry. We've learned that Klay Thompson, the fact that now that every possession he's like the 3rd, 4th option, him not getting those touches has definitely has impacted his production. And right now you're going to see another banner go up at Quicken Loans Arena. Cleveland Cavaliers in 6.
Bold prediction, my brother. Cleveland Cavaliers in 6. Anything you want to add, sir?
That's it. You know, it's a good time to be an Ohioan. That's all I need to say right now.
I was talking to Ant, Kev.
I must concur. It is a good time to be in Ohio when considering where Cleveland is right now. And much love to reigning and defending UFC champion Stipe Miocic, who successfully defended his UFC heavyweight strap against Junior Dos Santos. Made quick work of him. Quick work. Got him out of there in the 1st round. So, yeah, it's definitely a great, is definitely a great situation to be in Ohio in right now. My prayer is that the sudden transformation into Titletown for Ohio will eventually transcend here to the nation's capital, because we're dying for championships here. Like, we are in desperate need of a championship parade. So Cleveland gives me hope. If you all can become Titletown, I have the hope, the glimmer of hope that the nation's capital can once again become Titletown as well.
Kevin, thank you very much for joining us again, my brother. Please tell the people of Running Back Radio Nation where you can be found via social media.
Thanks for having me, fellas. I can be found at King of Ohio, which is KNGOFOH 1914 on Instagram.
All right, my brother. When the Cavaliers take that nosedive and lose, we're gonna have you back on, okay?
I can't confirm that, my brother. Appreciate your time once again.
And I want my $50 in pesos, man.
See.
All right, Kev. Thanks, man.
Always a pleasure,
Thank you,
Kevin.
brothers. Have a good one, brother.
Yes, sir. You as well.
You're listening to Run It Back with Deontay and Ant, broadcasting from SAB Media Studios in the DMV.
Welcome back to Running Back Radio. My name is Deontay, on Twitter at I Got Away With Words. That's IGOTAWYWITWORDS. Seated across from me is...
It's Ant, and I could be found on both Twitter and Instagram at Ant the Liberated. That is ANTTHELIBERATED.
And the show's Twitter and Instagram is at Running Back Radio. And also, GoFundMe.com. Search Running Back Radio Podcast. Contribute to the movement. No amount is too small. No amount is too big. Help us keep the momentum going. We have some special guests in the studio with us this evening. And tell us about them.
Joining us right now on Running Back Radio are two entrepreneurs who are using their gifts to empower others. One is doing so by way of literature. The other is doing so by way of financial expertise. And she is out to help the masses build wealth for themselves and their generations that follow. Please join me in welcoming Elite 100's wealth builders, Tasha Johnson and One Star Speaks Shalinda. Yes, she is just Shalinda, no last name. It's a Madonna and Cher type situation.
Diva style, one name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just call me Star for real. Just call me Star.
Oh, excuse us, Star.
Yeah.
Star.
Okay,
That's not less divish. That's actually more divish.
You're elevating
No,
the
you
divas.
know.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, thank you both for joining us on this evening. Now, I met you roughly a month ago during the SAB Media Studio pop-up vendors event, and you two seem to have a rapport with one another, which would suggest that your relationship goes beyond the vendors event. Would you like to enlighten us on how the two of you know each other?
Well, we went to school together.
Okay.
We've been friends forever.
Okay.
So
Middle school, so you know, growing this thing together for a long time.
Okay, that's what's up. So, what middle school, what high school?
small. Oh, do we really want to go all the way there? We're in Charles County though. We went to Smallwood and Lackey
High School.
Okay, we have some Charles County listeners. Yeah. Actually, a friend of ours that went to Delaware State University went to Lackey.
Oh, really?
Graylin King that played football.
Superstar.
He was the running back. Yeah.
Superstar.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I remember Greg.
Shout out to G King.
Right.
Shout out to those football games.
Right.
Oh, okay. Sounds like there's some history involved there.
You know.
Okay, so getting through junior high school, and then going into each of your areas of expertise. Let me ask the two of you, I guess starting with you, Tasha, and then you, Shalinda, or excuse me, Star. What inspired you to go into the fields that you all are in, or your areas of expertise?
Well, actually, 2 years ago, I quit my job, and when I quit my job, I have 3 young kids, so it was like, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to go back out there, or are you going to do something for yourself? So I chose to do something for myself.
Okay.
So financial education was what it is.
Awesome. Okay. And you, Star?
Well, what got me into it was I was basically forced to leave my job.
Okay.
I felt that it was time for me to go. So I just had to have the faith that, the gifts that God gave me, it was, enough with sitting on them.
Okay.
And not doing anything with it. So, you know, I had the gifts. I just had to make a way so that, you know, that money could keep coming in.
Absolutely. So let me ask, could you specify your gifts?
Well, I write poetry.
Okay.
I also have keepsakes. So I'm creative. I can do just about anything. I do styling,
Awesome.
you know.
Okay,
trinkets.
so how far have you gone with your poetry? Like, have you just kept it in the realm of writing? Have you just placed it on keepsakes, or do you do like open mic nights and spoken word type venues?
A little of everything.
Okay, all right, good deal.
I
good
don't
deal.
try to, you know, put everything in a box. I've tried out spoken word and open mic nights and stuff like that.
Okay.
But, you know.
Awesome. So back to you, Tasha. What or how do you use your financial expertise exactly to empower others?
I'm actually with Elite 100. We
Okay.
have a grassroots movement that fights financial illiteracy. So if you can check us out at www.elisainitiative.com and you can learn a little bit more about that.
Awesome. Back to you, Shalinda. Is there a specific genre of poetry that you focus on exactly, or are you open to any subject matter?
I'm open to any subject matter, but as far as actually certain things I've tried, you know, you have to figure out which way you want to go with your poetry. You really don't know. So, you know, I was going to the open mics to see, you know, the different people and how they, you know, moved and the things that they did. So certain things I try to stay away from just because I don't like it. I can write it.
Right.
But I like to stay on the side of inspirational, motivation type of poetry.
Where do you draw your inspiration from when you write?
Great question.
Everyday life and having to rely on God and the things that He shows you. I write from emotion. I write from my heart. So I can see you going through something, or I can see somebody else going through something. It doesn't necessarily have to be me, but there's always something inspirational in whatever you're going through. It's a message in everything.
Black girl magic, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
try, yeah.
Talk about your. You mentioned financial literacy as being one of the focuses of your group. So give me one or two things that you all notice that are prevalent in the Black community in terms of financial literacy.
The number one thing is that we don't talk about it. So, you know, it's a big, oh no, you know, we're not sitting around the kitchen table talking about money or what to do with your money. So, you know, the kids rather buy Jordans than to save a little bit of money for whatever, you know, whatever they may really want to do. So basically, we just try to get out there and educate people. So we have different presentations. We'll come to your home and have a presentation with you and your family, just a one-on-one, whatever it takes to, you know, get the message out there.
Awesome. Back to you, Shalinda. Is poetry the only venture that you have going right now, or is there something else that you would like to mention to our audience?
I have a book called Faith Over Fear.
All right.
It is a collaboration of inspirational poetry based off of real life things. You can get that from me personally. Just, you know, email me at the number one starspeaks@gmail.com. I'm also trying some new things that's to be announced in a couple weeks. Can't say anything about that yet, you know. So I just try to do anything. I try to use all my gifts. So if somebody comes to me telling me they need to be styled for this or styled for that, or they may need help with a wedding or anything, I try to jump in there. But
so you're just multifaceted.
Everything. I mean, I got to keep the money coming.
Okay, understood.
Play games.
So let me.
I can't stand video games. That's what I don't do.
So let me ask you, what inspired you to write this book?
A couple of people had come to me asking me to, you know, write a book. Why don't you put everything down? Why don't you put it in a book? I was like, I don't want to do a book because I didn't want it to be closed because I waited so long to even share my poetry with anybody. So I just got stuck. And I didn't know how to do what I wanted to do. So the book was, you know, somewhere to start because I had started going to networking events, meeting other authors and poets. And, you know, it seems like that was the thing to get you started, I guess, you know.
Did
so
you
I
bring us
started
signed
with
copies?
a book.
Is that?
I have books and I got a pen, so
Okay.
I got y'all.
Okay.
Sweet,
You know.
Absolutely. Okay, here's a question I want to ask you. Looking at the title of your book, Faith Over Fear. Being one who has grown up in the Christian faith and, having access to people that have grown up in the Christian faith, the unfortunate reality about us is we tend to be surface believers, and I say that because situations and trials may come, and as a result, we get fearful. And the word that we're supposed to subscribe to tells us that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but He has given unto us the spirit of power, love, and of sound mind. Why is it that Christians have a tendency to be fearful, and why is it that they struggle so much with allowing or having their faith to overcome their fear?
I
What would
can't
you say?
answer for all
Okay.
Christians,
But
but I
based on your
feel like,
experience,
based
yeah.
on my experience, I feel like the world tells us, this and that, and it's like a struggle. They're like, you can't see this person who you're saying is helping you through this, or who you're saying that you're waiting on. You can't see this person, but I can tell you this happened to this person and this
Right.
happened. Or, that's where all the fear is based upon. And even though we may not want to be of this world, we're still in the world.
Absolutely.
We're still going to go through trials. We're still going to have things happen for us. But the thing about it is you have to be able to understand or have that faith to know that God will put certain things in your way and in your path at the time that He says, not when you say. Because a lot of times we just want to do stuff and we like, all right, well, I think, I should do this. And God like, no, He sent you this sign, sent you that sign, hit you with a car. You still ain't got it, So, I mean, it's, I don't know. Yeah.
When it's all said and
that's
done,
all.
we are still human. No matter how much faith
Yeah,
we
we
profess, we're still human.
we're
and
still
we do
human.
Go through those emotions.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask a question to both of you ladies, and you can answer in the order that you want. What is the most bizarre request you might have received in reference to keepsakes, since you customize them? And for you, Tasha, maybe what is the most bizarre financial situation or scenario that one of your clients may have gotten themselves into? What type of advice did you provide them for them to come out of that or overcome that?
Well, I would say I can't really say bizarre requests because I like a challenge.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
like to do the
Awesome.
same thing every day. So if somebody come to me, they like, this one lady, she wanted capes for her and her girl.
Superman cake?
Her and her friend, like capes.
Okay.
And so,
I want a cape.
I was like,
I want a
ooh,
cape.
I never made a cape. I'm about to make these capes and hook them up. So I guess capes.
What was on the cake?
But my name is Hope What's Your Superpower, and the other one was, I can't remember that one.
Okay.
I can't remember that one. But they were pink and purple.
Okay.
I don't want pink or purple. I want a cape, though.
You
I'll
really-
get back to you.
I
on
get
what
you.
really
Yeah, I
want.
get you a
I'll get back
cake.
to you on
What
that.
kind of
Can you go
cape?
into
I gotta
detail
do
as
a
to what
different
this
kind of
will
cape.
have, or this is something that's off the record that you will discuss?
All
with
I
Snow?
know is Justice League is coming out in November.
Oh,
And I will wear my cape to go see Justice League. It is
Yes.
not a game.
Let's do this.
I will go to Justice League with my cape on, sir.
I have you flying in that joint
Yes. And don't take this as a joke. I'm serious. I will watch Justice League in my Superman pajamas with the feet in them. I'm not playing.
Now,
That's
I
real.
must
It's
ask
gonna be
this
November,
question.
so
I
that's
must
real.
ask this question in regards to Kevin, our boxer correspondent. Upon receiving this cape, will you give us the Superman curl to go with the cape?
like the Superman curl, though.
I mean,
That's
your
right.
hand's the texture for it. I mean,
Right,
when you pull
right.
it off, what you gonna do?
Listen. All options on the table, sir. Okay? All options on the table.
Now, if we can reel it back in, Tasha.
Well, I guess I would have to say that the most common thing that I get is that, oh, I don't have money, or I don't have any extra money to save or to put aside. And so I guess what I normally do is I help them find where they have that extra money to save at. If that means, oh, you don't eat, buy lunch at work every day this week. You save money there, because if you work downtown or anywhere in the government, you paying every bit of $10 plus for lunch every day.
For a Happy Meal,
Exactly.
maybe.
So,
Absolutely. Well, ladies, before we close out, let me ask you all to please plug all of your social media handles, your products, any and everything that's connected to you too. So
Before we go, I got one more
Okay,
question
sure
for
thing,
Tosh.
sir.
You mentioned the importance of financial literacy. You mentioned the fact that we don't talk about it as a group very often. We find out by trial and error. Usually, most people find out that are find out by having bad credit or getting into a bad credit situation, such as myself going to college. All of a sudden, you on campus and you have Visa, MasterCard, Discover. They're
Get a
like,
free
hey,
t-shirt.
fill out this application. You can get a credit card. You get the card. You got $1,000 limit on the card. You really don't understand credit or what it means. All you know is that you're no longer broke because you have a MasterCard. You can go to the restaurant, grab some grub. You can go to the store and get those jeans you've been eyeballing that you can't get. So at what age, as a collective, as a group, as a people, should we be going to our kids, loved ones, and talking and discussing financial literacy?
As soon as they know what money is. So, you know, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and her favorite place is the dollar store. So she's like, every day, let's go to the dollar store, let's go to the dollar store. And I'm like, no, ma'am, not the dollar store today, because even a dollar, you know, adds up. So after time, a dollar will add up, and people don't realize that just because you have a credit card, that doesn't mean that you have money, because you still have to pay that back plus interest. So we actually have a curriculum. So, you know, we teach financial literacy to, like I said, from pre-K to adulthood. So, you know, we try to help everybody where you are. We meet you where you're at.
She want to go to the dollar store every day. She need to get her resume together.
Right, all right. Yes, she's like my little secretary, so that's where she get her money from. So.
Get her resume together. But I'm sorry, go ahead,
She got a
Al.
job.
But no, it sounds to me like your little lady is under great tutelage, and it looks like you're definitely on a mission to make sure she's as financially literate as possible. And
Yes.
we need more of that in our community so
Yes.
that we can avoid falling into those financial traps that
Yes,
we
sir.
tend to fall into. So if there are no further questions, then please, ladies, plug all of your social media outlets and websites and anything connected to you all.
You can find me at The Star Speaks on social media, and the #1 starspeaks.wordpress.com. And what else social media do I have? I think that's it. I mean, it's so many, man. That's why, I like Instagram too, and share to everything.
And just to be clear, Running Back Radio listeners, that's Star who's speaking.
Star.
I don't
Yeah,
know why she
hey.
doesn't tell us who
About
she
her own
is.
social
Hey,
media
I'm
presence.
sorry. Find me at The Star Speaks. You can get my book. Just send me an email. Hit me up, message, DM.
This is Tasha. You can find me on social media at Tasha Johnson, and my email address is natashaj.solutions@gmail.com.
I do have one question. I would like to petition in front of Running Back Radio Nation that you at least get an Instagram page, because Sean and I been having some conversations about you.
I'm gonna work on it.
Okay,
on it.
good
It's
deal.
coming. It's coming.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. We appreciate you coming by, and you're always welcome to come back to promote anything forward that you have coming down the pike. And also, Tasha, I would definitely love to come out on behalf of Running Back Radio to cover some of your seminars, just to give our nation and our audience an idea of what it is that you all discuss and what it all entails.
Well, thank you, and I'll definitely be in touch with you with
Okay.
that information.
Awesome.
I want my
Anything else?
cape, man. I want my damn book.
Hey, we can get it. Look, let's do this. We're gonna get him a cake. What size, what color wording.
Oh, it's gonna be red.
All
Don't
of that.
make no, it's gonna be red.
Everything
I'm going to Justice League.
customized.
You think I'm playing? Ladies, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it
Thanks for
having you.
having
Thank you so
us.
much.
Definitely,
Thank you.
definitely.
Appreciate you. And those pictures will go up on social media. Trust me. Just
With the cake.
Yeah, when you
Dun,
with
dun,
your
dun.
Superman curl and your cape. Oh,
With,
trust.
with the pajamas, with
Yeah,
the feet.
yeah, absolutely. Trust.
I
Not
think
again,
Star needs
sir.
to join
Yes.
you.
You know I'm with it, okay? I'm with it. Shoot.
Thank you, ladies, once again. Truly appreciate
Y'all gotta
you
get
both.
matching cakes.
And they smell
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, it has to smell good.
Run It Back Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals, the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors.
And to be specific, we'll be joined by Bullets Forever SB Nation contributor Marcus Atkinson Jr.
You're listening to Run It Back with Deontay and Ant, broadcasting from SAB Media Studios in the DMV.
Run It Back Radio, welcome back. My name is Deontay on Twitter at I Got Away with Words. That's at IGOTAWYWITWORDS.
This is Ant. You can find me both on Instagram and Twitter at Ant the Liberated. That it's ANTTHELIBERATED.
Yes, sir. So we are talking about the finals right now, the NBA finals. It is the Cleveland Cavaliers, defending NBA champions, taking on the Golden State Warriors for the third consecutive year. Being as though this matchup is happening for the third consecutive year, it's got me to thinking about trilogies and trilogies that some were good, some were not good, movies, pop culture, anything, trilogies. So what are some trilogies you remember film wise that really were good trilogies to you?
Film wise, I'll have to go with Rocky.
Rocky 3?
I definitely enjoy Rocky 3.
Mr. T?
Oh, absolutely.
What about Godfather 3?
I was okay with it.
It was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible.
See, I tried to give it the benefit of the doubt, but
it was horrible. What about some trilogies in sports? Some trilogy matchup in sports.
Trilogy matchup in sports. One that I would have to go to that many may not be familiar with is in the MMA world in the form of Michael Chandler versus oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his first name? Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez, please forgive me. They did it 3 times in Bellator. When I say all 3 matches were classic, they were classic. And I could also go the route of Frankie Edgar versus, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me on this evening? I'll come back to that, but
Ali Frazier 3.
Ali Frazier 3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely classics. I'm trying to think of any other matchups. 3 consecutive matchups. I can't think of any more, but you all get the point, Run It Back Radio Nation. And tell us who we got on the line, brother, the Run It Back Radio hotline.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us to discuss the NBA Finals is a man who is a husband, he's a father, he's an information technology professional, he's an admin of the hottest sports discussion group in all of social media that is Good All Around Sports Convo, which can be found only on Facebook. And he is a contributor of SB Nation's Bullets Forever blog. Please help me welcome Mr. Marcus Atkinson Jr. Marcus, thanks so much for joining us on this evening. Truly appreciate you.
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
We're doing well, man. How about you? How's it going?
Oh, man, I'm making it.
Good deal. So before we actually delve into the NBA Finals, can I ask you to please enlighten our listeners on what exactly Bullets Forever is?
Okay, so I think it was back in 2006. There is a writer by the name of Michael Prater, who he actually writes currently for SB Nation.
Okay.
He has some really excellent material that he writes out there. He basically started a blog a while ago where he just kept up with the Wizards. Like he would write about, basically recap their games when, they played their games, or he would have analysis of things that went on during the games, things like that. And that was kind of like the beginning of Bullets Forever before it became Bullets Forever. And then basically about 11 years ago, Bullets Forever became a blog site on SB Nation.
Right.
And basically, as a result of that, every team, pretty much of all the major professional sports, have like their own blog, and Bullets Forever is that blog for the Wizards, of course. And it just kind of blew up from there once it got part of SB Nation, and it's just been like basically anything you could think of Wizards related. That's what we talk about on there.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, please be on the lookout for Bullets Forever by way of SB Nation. Please look up my guy, Marcus Atkinson. You will definitely enjoy his material. Now, before we go completely into the NBA Finals, there's one particular aspect of it that I want to get into. In case you all have not heard, LeBron James, in the final game of the Eastern Conference Finals where they defeated the Boston Celtics, he eclipsed Michael Jordan to become the all-time leading playoff scorer. Just when I hoped that the comparisons between LeBron and Mike would possibly come to a cease, this happens. So, Marcus, let me ask you, what is it with NBA's nation's obsession with comparing James to Jordan? And who is responsible for this, and will it ever come to an end, in your opinion?
I think a lot of it has to do with just, it's always about what have you done for me lately, the recency effect. You see somebody like LeBron James, who obviously is the best player in the world right now.
Yeah.
You see the things he's doing, which is, he's doing some amazing things. He's breaking all types of records, and, there's nothing that I can take away from him in the accomplishments that he's had. But I think at the same time, when you have somebody that's doing something like that, you have the tendency to kind of forget some of the greatness that's happened before. And I think that you have a younger generation possibly that maybe didn't see the Jordans, the Kareems, the Wilts, the Bill Russells, players like that, and the things that they've done, and they can't really quantify everything that LeBron James is doing. It's just the best thing they've ever seen. So, for them, it's like, oh, this is, incredible. This is great. This shows you how great he really is. But in my opinion, I think that this NBA Finals is really going to speak a lot to his legacy, as far as like how people are going to form these debates that they're trying to bring up now. I don't think it would be a bad thing, honestly, if he lost. Golden State is an incredible team. They just added an MVP and Kevin Durant onto the team, which broke the regular season wins record last year. So adding Durant on, you kind of expect them to win the championship. And so if LeBron lost, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing for him. But I think in reality, it'll be harder, should I say, to make that argument that he's the greatest ever. So I think if Cleveland does lose the finals, I think you'll start to see that conversation slow down just a little bit. But there'll always be people that will still make the argument.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned it, because that was as far as the potential disappointment of, LeBron losing another NBA final. But I want to direct that disappointment in the direction of Golden State. And I say that because looking at the Warriors, last season they went on a 73-9 regular season run, only to watch the Cavaliers win its first ever title. Now, this season, they equipped with arguably the second best player in the association with Kevin Durant. And so looking at the two scenarios of Golden State, should Golden State fall short of the championship expectations for a second consecutive season, let me ask you, which of the two scenarios do you think will be more disappointing for Golden State? Would it be coming up short after a 73-9 run, or would it be coming up short with Kevin Durant on your team, along with Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Mr. Do-It-All, Draymond Green?
I will honestly say, I think it's got to be this year that will be more disappointing. And here's why I think that. Well, first of all, last year, you remember Andrew Bogut was hurt. He had the injury in the finals, and obviously he ended up not playing a couple of games, and that really kind of hurt them, because he was basically their outside Draymond Green, one of their best defensive players. So when you don't have a big man like that in the middle, it kind of hurts your chances. And then you had Harrison Barnes, who was struggling. I mean, he couldn't hit anything in the finals. So I think even though they had a great regular season, they just didn't really have a great team at the time when they got to the finals. And even though they should have probably won that series, they ultimately didn't play well enough to win it. So I think when you look at that and you compare it to this year, where they've won 27 out of the past 28 games they played, you got, like you said, arguably the second best player in the NBA on your team now, on top of the core that you already have. I mean, it would seem it should be easier this year for you to win compared to the past 2 years. So in my opinion, I think if they don't win this year after adding somebody like Durant, who was probably the best player they could have possibly have added that was available, I think you got to be more disappointed this year than last year.
I could not agree with you more. Now, let's actually dig into the finals. Now, looking at every aspect of the upcoming matchup, coming into this season, it was already a foregone conclusion that we were going to see Golden State and Cleveland Part 3. However, what wasn't expected was for these two teams to dominate their conferences the way they did. These teams combined for a 24-1 postseason record. Could you possibly explain how both of these teams were able to dominate their conferences the way they did?
I think the NBA right now, I think they're really struggling to have elite teams. I'm very critical on just the way teams are being built these days. I feel like a lot of teams, they make a lot of poor personnel decisions. And they go out there and they sign guys and overpay them, and then they put themselves in a position they can't add pieces that they really need. Right. And I think what you end up having is you only have like a couple teams that really seem to get it and able to make great decisions. I wouldn't even necessarily say Cleveland has been great at that. They just are obviously blessed to have LeBron James on their team who makes everybody around him better.
There you go.
But I think that right now there's just not a lot of good teams in the NBA. I think Boston, they have potential to be in that conversation next year, especially depending on what kind of offseason they have, having the #1 draft pick and having the money available and things like that. So it's potential that after this season we start to see some teams that can challenge. But right now it's just Cleveland, it's just Golden State, and I just don't think anybody else is on their level.
Understood. I cannot agree with that sentiment anymore. Deontay, do you have anything to ask Marcus?
Yeah, man. Let's get into it. Break it down, man. Cavaliers, Warriors. Let's get into it. Like, how do you see the series shaping up? Is there an X factor that perhaps analysts are not or are forgetting about? Excuse me. So yeah, just break down the matchup. You know, do you see it going 7? Is it going 6? Is it going to be a blowout? Is it going to be a sweep? Let's get into it.
Well, one of the things that I looked at with the series and everything leading up to the series is I was really curious how Cleveland would come into the playoffs and how they would handle their rotations. Obviously, losing Andrew Bogut in the middle of the season right after you just signed him, like 2 minutes into the game, you know, that put a damper in what potentially could have been just a ridiculous bench. And then when they try to get Larry Sanders in there to replace him, that didn't pan out either. So I knew coming into the playoffs, their big man depth was really thin. And so what I wanted to know was, like, okay, how would they handle their rotations with their big men? Well, in this past series against Boston, Channing Frye only played a total of 29 minutes. And that tells me a lot about what Cleveland is trying to do as far as what Tyronn Lue's strategy is. It seems like he really wasn't trying to depend too much on Channing Frye as far as him playing center, and he likes to play small a lot. Well, that may work against other teams, but against Golden State, that's going to be a big issue. You think about that lineup that Golden State can throw out there. We're having Draymond and Green at center, and now this year you can put Kevin Durant at the 4. You can have Andre Iguodala, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. That is a deadly lineup. I mean, everybody in the lineup can shoot threes, and that's a great defensive lineup too. I just don't see Cleveland having a lineup that's comparable to that. So I think that Golden State going small and Cleveland having to go small because of their lack of depth is going to really be a big difference in the series. And I really ultimately think that Golden State's going to win this in 5 games. I think Cleveland, as a great a team as they are, I just think that their lack of size is just going to be difficult to counteract Golden State. There's just no team in the NBA that can match up lineup for lineup when Golden State goes small, and I think they're going to use that lineup a lot in this series.
Awesome. Final question, Marcus, or final question / comment. Maybe it's just me, But I think the basketball gods intervened and saw to it that we had a third matchup between these two teams, because previously we had injuries, we had suspensions that allowed these teams to come into this rivalry not fully equipped, not fully assembled. Now, barring any unforeseen circumstances, it looks like we're going to see truly Golden State versus Cleveland with everyone involved. What's your take on that?
I think it's going to be great to finally see it. I think that a lot of people felt like the first matchup, it just wasn't good because, you know, here you have LeBron James getting the ball almost every time down court, and he's posting up, just trying to slow the game down, slow the pace down. And he was really trying to just create for his teammates. He really didn't have any other playmakers on the floor with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love being hurt. So I think that really just took away from the hype in that series, which, you know, it was going to be a really big-time series, but that really took away from the excitement. As far as last year, like you said, the suspension, it just was unfortunate the way that things played out. I think it did help that it went to 7 games and was a very exciting series, especially you go down the stretch and you're in the final minutes and the Game 7 is decided by that big shot by Kyrie Irving. I think that really did help it. So I really believe this year, like, we're really going to kind of like end a lot of discussion about, you know, who is truly the better team. You hear a lot of people say, well, Cleveland won because the suspension, or Golden State won because Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love were hurt. Now we won't have to hear all that. Now we'll get to really see who the best team is.
Exactly. Leaving no room for skepticism. We will know for sure who truly is the best team in the association. Marcus, man, I appreciate you so much for coming in and giving us your expertise on the upcoming finals, man, and just know that the invite is always extended to you for you to come in and provide any NBA expertise you have to offer.
Oh, no problem at all, guys. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you guys bringing me on.
Hey, glad to have you, Marcus. Where can the people reach you via social media, or if they want to reach out to your blog? Give us that information one more time.
You could just reach me on Bullets Forever. Just look me up. You know, I'm a frequent contributor on there, and I'm not on Twitter. I know that sounds crazy. I'm like one of the few people on there that's really not on Twitter. So just look out for anything I post on Bullets Forever. We're going to be getting to a lot of off-season stuff coming up soon. So myself and the other writers as well, you're going to see a lot of interesting things coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome, man. We look forward to you. Thank you once again, Marcus. Truly appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, now, take care.
All right.
Running Back Radio Nation. Let me do that over. Running Back Radio Nation. Another episode comes to a close. I'm Deontay on Twitter at I Got Away with Words. IGOTAWYWITWORDS.
And this is Ant. I could be found on both Twitter and Instagram at Ant the Liberated. ANTTHELIBERATED. The show can be found on both platforms as well, Twitter and Instagram at Run It Back Radio.
And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, go to GoFundMe.com, search Run It Back Radio Podcast. Contribute whatever you can to help us keep the momentum going. No amount of donation is too small. No amount of a donation is too big. We definitely need your help, and we appreciate you listening to Run It Back Radio once again. We want to thank Dr. Logan for coming on. We want to thank Kevin Watkins for coming on. We also want to thank
Star and Shalinda. And we want to thank Marcus Atkinson Jr. from SB Nation's Bullets Forever.
Star and Tasha. Star and Tasha, right?
Touche. Star and Tasha. Star is Shalinda. Excuse me. Star and Tasha.
All right, y'all. We're going to take a week off, but we're going to come back at you hard in the following week. Run It Back Radio Nation. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
We'll see you June 8th.